One Word is a production of BFAC On Air.
Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Back to One Word.
One word.
One word.
One word.
Gets better and better every time.
Every time.
I am Dominic,
I'm Jenna.
I am Zoe.
And I'm Chloe.
and we are here to all consume you today.
Oh, fun.
Oh boy.
Oh, yes.
The
Just
word,
like Wally.
just like
Kinda.
Yes.
So our word for this month was consumerism. And, the interesting thing is it's a word we kind of throw around and take for granted. We're all consumers. You're a consumer. I'm a consumer. We're all consumers. But we really don't entirely know what it means. First of all, what the root of that word means and where it comes from.
Right.
And then what it means for what and how we're consuming everything,
Right.
including where we
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. And it was, and that brought up a lot of different things and ideas. We talked about a light bulb.
We did talk about a light
I
bulb.
almost don't want to
adorable.
say more than that, but we talked about a light bulb. And let me tell you, it's so interesting. Okay,
is.
and just get ready to Google about this light bulb.
You
and
should
to-
Google it because it's like actually very cute as
It
far
is-
as light bulbs go.
It is. It is.
You're such a cute little
Look
light
at the
bulb.
little light
I just
bulb.
wanna,
Like a
I just wanna
baby.
pinch your little filaments, you
Pinch your little filaments.
instead of cheeks.
Yeah. We also talked about advertising and marketing and how that, affects consumerism, which was super interesting. We got into a lot about that, kind of talking about different groups that are advertised to and how
Yeah.
they're advertised to. It was super interesting.
How, why, and how you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also talked about two of my favorite subjects, fashion and the environment, and we kind of conjoined the two as well at the end.
Yeah.
So
And we
that's pretty cool.
debuted a new podcast within a podcast called Zoe Knows Everything.
Which
Yes,
she
it
does.
comes out
Because she does,
soon.
Yeah.
right? She knows
Coming
it all.
out soon in a
Zoe specifically knows about fire, too.
Oh boy, yes I do.
Zoe had a fire in her home.
I did.
Another home story from Zoe can be
I've
heard
got
here.
so many.
She has had many a home.
They will be discussed in my new podcast.
Yeah. It's this might not be as good of a call to action as what Chloe had when we did honesty, but there's just some interesting things to think about at the end of it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I would like to go back to give everyone a challenge out there. When you listen to the end of the podcast, maybe you think before you consume from now on.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's an option. Who knows?
No, definitely. You should definitely think.
Yeah, please think before you
Be
consume.
conscious. Be conscious.
Well, I don't think there's any reason for us to keep talking at this time. So without further ado, I just have one word for you. Consumerism.
Today we are talking about consumerism. I
Mhm.
want to, I'm going to give the definition, but I kind of want to break it into two first. Consume
Yes.
and ism. Okay, so consume comes directly from the Latin of consumere, which means to use up, eat, waste.
Oh,
Right? Is that strong?
that is strong.
All right.
Yeah. I have a few more words that I found too. Can you
Oh,
mind if I share them with
Please
you?
do.
Yeah. So wear down, exhaust,
Mhm.
devour, use up, expend, squander,
Those are all-
waste. Like that is what that is. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
I know, right? Just thinking about those words, right? So if you're thinking about that, squandering, consume, which is the word, right?
Yeah.
And then ism.
Mhm.
So we add ism to a word, and that implies we're making that word a noun, and it implies a practice or a system or doctrine. So basically, consumerism
It's a system of wasting.
is the system of wasting.
Nice.
Right? The practice of wearing down.
Is a system or practice of wearing down.
Yes, that is
using up.
Using up,
That feels-
squandering.
Feels so positive.
Hey, it's
Overwhelmingly
great to
so.
be here with you all.
Exhausting.
It is exhausting, right? So that is where the word consumerism comes from.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the word of it.
That's the word.
So then where does this practice stem from? Where does it come from?
So originally, one of the first like forms of consumerism was during World War One, but some of my research said that it didn't really start in America until the 1920s, and it wasn't really a general idea until then. But I have also heard some things that kind of contradict that. I think it started way back in like 1700s.
Yeah.
People, when they received income, they were receiving more than they needed, because obviously when society and like civilization was kind of building upon itself, you just bought things that you needed. You bought a sponge, you bought a pan, but then you had so much extra money, people started, buying
Spare,
two pans
too. Yeah.
We all
and
learned a new
two
word.
sponges.
The GDP, the gross domestic product, as that raises, people have more money to spend on superfluous things.
Exactly. And
But the interesting thing is, typical people didn't really own anything.
yeah,
People typically owned this lovely yellow sweater that you have on right now. And that is probably what you wore every day.
Right.
And we owned maybe a tool or two. We didn't really own anything.
Yeah.
And then we started to be able to, because of what Zoe's saying, and we would start to spend more, which then kind of led to this cyclical economy thing where people could hire more people. It's that kind of cycle, right?
Yeah.
exactly.
And then instead of this one yellow sweater, now I have this sweater in 10 different colors.
Yes.
And that's
that
a
is
whole
correct.
thing in itself, like how different companies, like especially the fashion industry,
Mhm.
how they have taken the idea of, well, now people want two sweaters.
Yeah.
They have built upon that and created, well, if you have two sweaters that look like this, you also need a sweater that looks exactly like your yellow sweater, but it has feathers on it.
Yes.
And it's $10 more just because it has feathers on it.
Don't you want
Exactly.
it? Don't you love it?
Yeah. I do.
And even if you talk about shape and form of things, they changed the style and look of cars.
Yeah.
And sometimes they make them harder edges, or they round things out so that they can give you the new make you want to have that new one, so your other one looks out of fashion.
Like, oh, look at that
Cars were
boxy car. I
actually-
need a rounded one.
It's sleek.
I'm still waiting for the one that flies. That's right.
That feels scary.
And weren't we supposed to have the hoverboard by now?
We were.
Can
Back
I
to the
just?
Future lied to us.
I mean, we kind of do.
Yeah.
It just doesn't actually hover.
No, the hover. It's wheels.
If you close your eyes.
It's wheels and
You're
they touch
kind
the
of-
ground.
It's
If
more
you
like
close
a
your eyes and
leaning
you-
board. You lean and you go.
And if you jump off of a step, you're hovering for a little bit.
as you
the right attitude.
plummet
Yeah.
to the earth.
Yeah.
But talking about cars a little bit, they were actually one of the products that really started the American consumerism right after World War II. So after World War II, the economy is finally like a working system again. And so people coming back from war want to start buying things for their families and for their homes because, cultivating that sense of home was really, really important after there was no sense of home for the war and also during, the Depression. So cars, TVs, and home products like cleaning products and like washer dryers and that sort of thing were like some of the home appliances and Tupperware. They were some of the things that people were buying, and those were those superfluous purchases because Americans could kind of convince themselves that they weren't being overly decadent because they were buying for their families and for their homes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And it provided happiness. Those objects
Yes.
provided happiness. So-
Short-lived happiness.
Interesting fact, they've done research, and the more things you consume, you would think the happier a person is, but there's a ceiling to it.
Yeah.
Like you can actually you get what you need, and once you get the things to sustain life, the happiness does not actually grow the more you actually consume.
Which
Yeah.
makes sense, but I don't want to believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense, but it's also like there is a science to them making you believe that, to making you, which we kind of talked about, to making
advertising,
you
yeah.
think, the advertising. There's
Yeah.
actually this thing called marketing. Well, marketing
There's a thing
psychology.
called
There's this
marketing.
thing called marketing,
Yeah.
but marketing psychology, which attempts to understand the way that consumers are feeling.
Yeah.
Right. Like the way that consumers think, feel, reason, and make decisions, and convincing you that this thing is exactly what you need exactly in this moment.
Yeah,
and really appealing
that's
to
someone's
you.
job.
Yes, that is
Right?
someone's
It's
job.
many people's job.
Yeah.
It
I
used to be my
work
wife's
in
job.
I used to work in marketing.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. And it's insane how much we look at just to like the audiences of certain things can be broken down into just like so many different avenues and
Mhm.
areas. And so appealing to, this real niche market
Yeah.
of people takes a lot of thought and process to get them to finally be like, you know what? Yes, I will do this. Now, for me, it doesn't take a lot. Like, if I'm walking in the mall with somebody, I usually have them walk on the outside of me or the inside, like wherever the people who are trying to sell you stuff, the people who
Oh,
are standing
yeah.
in the malls.
Spraying you with cologne.
Yes, I have to kind of stand away from them on the other side because
you'd buy it. You
I
can't
will
say
stop.
no as we
right,
as we
because they want to
realized.
talk to me.
I watched a video one time, like years and years ago, and I just remembered about this. It was about shopper theory, and it was about how grocery stores are organized to make people spend more.
Oh,
So
yeah.
every time I'm in grocery stores and my mom gets a cart when we're just going for one thing, I'm like, Mom, shopper theory, get a basket, because if you get a cart, then you're going to want to fill up that cart with all the wonderful things that they can sell you.
Yeah, well, I worked at Old Navy for a long time when
I
I
could
was
see
a young
this.
Could you see it?
Yes.
I was fantastic at it.
I
At
knew
Christmas time, they would give me a ladder when all the lines were really long and put me at the front of the store
And-
on top of the ladder to entertain people.
Oh my god. Really?
I'm not even kidding
Oh
you.
my gosh.
While they were waiting in the long lines to pay.
Oh my gosh.
Come to
Can
Old
you-
Navy
yeah.
see Dominic say some funny bits.
Can you please what defined entertain?
Well, I would just have conversations with people, and I would make fun of
Okay.
people a little bit, and
Do
I
your whole
would
little
joke
stand-up
around
routine?
with some
Take
yes, that's
five.
like improvise a solo show in the front of Old Navy
All right.
to keep them from realizing they were in a long line, so they'd actually continue to buy all.
They'd
the
be like,
things.
man, that was just the greatest shopping experience.
Yes, but what we would do, so when I worked there, you had the first thing you wanted to make sure is everyone had one of those blue mesh bags.
Oh, yeah.
I think they have carts now or something. I don't even know if they have those mesh bags anymore. Because
What's
if you
carts?
gave someone a blue mesh bag, it's more room to put stuff in.
They do that at Bath and Body Works. They go, would
Right?
you like a bag? And I
Yeah.
said, no.
Because
I'm just here to
you're gonna
smell.
Stop
I think Chloe
putting
gives him a
things in.
stank look.
If you don't have any, if you run out of arm space, you're gonna stop and you're gonna walk out.
Right.
Yeah.
Nope, give them that. Give them more.
Mm.
They also rearrange grocery stores very frequently, and that's to make you search for the thing you want, and then you'll see, oh, I want to buy this, I want to buy this.
Also,
Well, and the kids' cereals and things
Are
are
on the
often
bottom shelf.
marketing to those children.
yeah,
Yeah.
and not even just for kids. All the more expensive name brand items are placed on the shelves at eye level. Because when you're walking through a store, your mind is focused on what you need, and then they add the things that you don't necessarily need, but the ones that are bright colors and name brands, and I saw this in a commercial, and it makes the consumer want to buy it.
Yeah.
Probably makes them feel something
Yeah.
Yeah.
when they
yeah.
see that.
And
Happiness.
there are six tips for marketing.
Mm.
6 psychological tips that people often use. Do you want me to tell you what
I
they
wanna
are?
know. Please
Yes,
tell
I
me
do.
more.
I was just gonna leave it at that. Hey, there's 6 tips.
There's 6. You
Just
can find it
moving
out
Say
yourself.
on.
something and then moving on. Don't even tell
Yeah,
us.
right. And a lot of the things we've been talking about. One, people are impulsive.
Mm.
Right.
Very
So in the
true.
grocery store, if you're waiting in line, or even in Old Navy now, they've been putting all those little things at the front
Mhm.
where it's like, oh, I'm standing here waiting. Look at this delicious little piece of candy. And
Might
it's
as well.
So-
purple.
Yeah,
Let me
they
grab
do-
it.
They
And
have
it's
candy
purple?
up at
I
the
love
front,
purple.
right? Can I just tell you?
Yes.
I'm checking out one time, and my son is 2 or something, a year and a half, very, very small. And we had one of those cars. It was a cart with a car in the front, and so he was really low.
Mhm.
I check out and I get everything, and we get out to the car, and he had grabbed at some point a package of Rolos
Oh my gosh.
and had devoured he had chocolate all over his face.
Oh,
And I didn't
my
know till I
goodness.
got out. I had to go back in and pay for the Rolos.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I understand that.
So yes, they put that,
that feeling
there.
is real.
Yeah.
They put that so your children will
Right.
See it.
make you
And
get the
and
candy.
throw a fit if you're saying no to that, right? 2 and 3 kind of go together. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So having pretty
Mhm.
things, right? Having it be appealing to the eye,
Yeah.
but also color psychology. There are certain colors that are going to appeal to your mood and to your emotions a little bit more.
So how I'm feeling, the color might depend. If I need this product, I might be feeling this way. And so I'm going to make this product this color.
Yep. It's all about the words too, right?
Yep.
So the pen's mightier than the sword. Certain words are really going to appeal to you. Authentic, right? Like the power of yes. If you can get somebody to say yes for a little thing, they're going to be more likely to say yes as you are like, well, let's add this.
And we know from our last episode that Jenna only has one good no in her.
One good no.
Only one.
I thought later there were some things in that story that I didn't share.
Well, perhaps I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
keep
probably
going.
a good thing. Okay, and then the last one, which again we've talked about, our decisions are emotional. So really playing to that emotion of the person, like bringing that out, trying to find an emotional response in somebody.
Wow. So this is how you get people to buy things.
Yeah.
Right? So once you're hooked on something, let's say you buy it, how do you, because in order to keep going with what we talked about and that cycle of growing and and buying and growing and buying and more and more and more, you would have to rebuy from a company over and over again.
Oh, sure.
Right?
So there's dependency on those companies.
Yeah. Companies have to make their things become obsolete.
Oh my gosh. It drives me crazy when they do that.
So do you
Like
know,
iPhones. Yeah.
do you know, so have you heard of the term planned obsolescence?
Oh, I don't know, but I like that phrase. Say it again.
It's called planned obsolescence. And this goes back
nice.
to the advent of electricity.
Oh.
Okay. So is this going to surprise you if I were to tell you that there is a light bulb that is over 115 years old and still works?
Ooh. Does
And
nobody
it's not
touch
an
it?
LED.
It's got the things.
Yep, that's exactly right. We're just going to call it, it's got the zuzoots. So it's in Livermore, California. In fact, you can go on and see it. You could just Google Livermore, California, and they've got images of it.
Clack it on my
And the
keyboard.
webcam refreshes every 30 seconds.
What?
Okay? Yeah.
I already forgot what it was called.
A light bulb?
No, I know what that word is. Where is it? What am I Googling?
It's in Livermore,
California.
Oh, the Centennial light bulb. There it is.
So, and it's at a fire station. It's dim, but it is still lit. So way back when, electric companies provided light bulbs.
There it goes.
Okay. And so, there's the light bulb.
Yeah.
Right. So they provided the light bulbs. So they wanted light bulbs to last as long as possible.
I love that this is a live feed of it.
I love it too.
It says
That's today.
at 1:23 p.m. Right? So they wanted the light bulbs to last as long as possible. So they didn't have to, someone didn't have to go out to the houses and rechange light bulbs. Well, then everything kind of shifts, right? And now electric companies aren't providing you with the product. And so what do they want to do? They want to make the light bulb not last as long.
How dare they?
So
you can
that
buy
you
more.
have to continue to buy more and more of it.
I have to give it to these companies. Like, it's so evil, but so clever.
I know, it's so frustrating. I was just thinking, like, we could have had a light bulb just living in. I could have been friends with this light bulb, just like grew up with this light bulb. And now you took away that relationship from me.
You did.
Could have been light bulb buddies.
It gets worse than that, though, because the companies actually intentionally collaborated on it to do this. So you had, it was a worldwide manufacture thing. So Germany, there was a company. The United Kingdom had a company, and then General Electric from the United States. And they all colluded to artificially reduce a bulb's lifetime to 1,000 hours.
Hey, Friedrich, you know what? That light bulb you made, too good.
Too good.
It's too good.
Too
You
good.
gotta
But I aim for
Calm it
things that are
down.
great. I
Yeah.
make great things over here.
yeah, you need to simmer that down a
Oh,
little
no, I
bit.
can't do that.
But you
Okay.
won't make great money, Friedrich, will you?
Yeah, make it last like a year. Okay. 1
So
year.
they didn't actually find out about this till decades later, and it was actually journalistic investigations that uncovered all of this. So isn't that interesting?
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
That light bulb is one of the first things that they started to plan to become obsolete. It happens with other things as well, And if we think about it in different ways, kind of like we touched on already. So General Motors and Ford in the 1920s, they did something similar with the model year and creating a new model year so that you had to have the
Right.
new
The
thing.
newest model.
It's just really a way to get you to buy it again. There's other ways that they do it too. So they make it so that the parts are more brittle and will break. They also do it so that the repair costs are more than just replacing the item, and with those aesthetic upgrades as well. So versions that are becoming less desirable or aesthetically pleasing to you.
I will say, something being pretty is much more incentive for me to buy it.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm a simple girl. I like frills and pink and pretty.
Yeah, I will definitely go for something that's pretty.
I'm wearing
Yeah.
frilly socks right now.
I do not own any white socks at all. They are all like of a
Oh,
color
no.
or a
Me too.
pattern.
My socks are all like
Yeah.
patterns, colors, because and I always get the new model year in socks too.
To some degree, I think like buying things just for the sake of them being pretty and fun isn't inherently bad, because I mean, if I want to eat some cake, I'm glad cake exists. I'm glad we don't all have to eat
I think
nutritional mush.
I'd
I
prefer
think it's
pie,
just the
but
overindulgence of those
Absolutely.
products.
Yeah.
That is the
So
bad
that-
thing.
Yeah, I would agree. So, but then what's the balance for these things and these companies and how they're doing business? Because here's another one. This source is Giles Slade, and he wrote a Made to Break Technology. And he cites how there are microchips and light sensors or batteries that can disable a cartridge before all of the ink in your printer is gone, making you have to buy more cartridges.
Whoa.
And printer ink is so expensive.
so
Yes.
Artificially so.
And you have to
Do you
replace
know
it
with-
all the time.
You know, with printers, they actually charge you, they lose money on the printer itself on typical ones. There is a brand that has one where they charge you for the actual and then it's different. But most of the time they lose money on the printer, and the ink, they get you, they just rack that up so high on that thing, and then they've got a chip inside of it, according to Giles Slade, where it stops. You don't even get to use all your ink.
Do you ever, with your printer, like, this is probably not okay to do, but add like water to it to try to get it to keep printing more? Like,
I can't say that I've ever done that.
What?
You ever just like take the cartridge out, just add some dabs of water, be like, I know there's ink in there, and you're gonna feel this water, and you're gonna come back to life. Ink.
Does that work?
I'm gonna say yes, but probably not. I like to believe that it does.
So I was kind of giving that planned obsolescence a little hard time just there. But can we think of any times where that might be acceptable?
Planned obsolescence?
Yeah.
I really just wanted to say it.
Yes, I'm glad you did. You said it
Planned
quite well.
obsolescence.
So I think it comes down to a factor of price and how long something lasts.
Okay.
Right.
So the example they give here is children's clothes.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So a child's clothes who, maybe they're 4 or 5 years old. And do you need to pay the extra money for the clothes to last for a certain period of time when chances are
They'll outgrow it
they
anyway.
will outgrow those clothes
Yeah.
before that time comes? I mean, I guess if you have a family of, 4 children.
Oh my
that
gosh.
might
Who
be-
has 4 children? Oh, you do.
Okay, yeah. Maybe you want to use those clothes for other kids too, but that is one of them.
Well, also, I think, I don't know if it's intentional obsolescence, but the fast fashion industry is really interesting
Yeah.
in its, sense of it making fashion that's cheap to produce, but then wears down super, super quickly. So that's like, people have to buy an insane amount of clothing because it, wears down so fast, and then it just goes straight into landfills. And that's one of the biggest contributors to like huge environmental issues right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zoe and I know all about this topic.
I love fashion, even though it's bad sometimes.
She's an environmentalist and a fashionista.
Oh,
It's true.
Wow. So the other thing.
He sounded so sincere. Oh,
Okay,
wow. So
Moving on.
The other thing that could be said for planned obsolescence is that it leads to an increase in our developments or our abilities to develop new technologies and new things.
I was just
right?
thinking that.
That
I
makes
was
sense.
thinking like it probably does help with creativity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And innovation.
Yeah,
and,
innovation.
and so people have to create new products and new things to make
Yeah.
our lives easier and better as well.
Yeah, it's like forced productivity.
So, but
Yeah.
but the question then is there a way to do those things in a way which is not as wasteful to our world? Because
It's a
let's
very
go,
good question.
if we go back to that definition that you talked about, use up, expend, swallow, exhaust, wear down, that is what we're going to do to this planet.
Oh yeah, we are
Yeah.
currently wearing it down.
We
Poor
are
baby.
consuming
Big time.
it. So we've got to find a way to lessen that a little bit. There are some interesting things that some companies are doing.
Like what?
Look at the cell phones, for example.
Do you remember? Sorry.
Do you remember flip phones
Do you,
or
oh
the Zach
my
Morris
gosh.
phone? Which
no,
one?
No. Flip phones for I had a brick phone and I had a flip phone. They were both fabulous.
My brother had one of the ones where the keyboard pops out the bottom. You like slide
Yes,
it.
The slider.
Oh, yeah.
Those are all great.
I wanted
so
one so bad
fancy.
because they were on Disney Channel and all the on Shake It Up with Zendaya. I love that show.
I bet you we
Zendaya had a
could
little
get you one
slidey
for
phone.
cheap now.
I
I
kind of
have
want
some
one
in
of
the
those.
room.
That's so
honestly.
fun.
I have a couple for props.
I could
in the room.
bedazzle it just like Zendaya's on
You
Shake It Up.
could.
Do you remember how the battery used to last for like a suit? Like you hardly ever had to recharge it.
Yes, like 4 days.
Yeah.
That's
Great.
impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
My phone makes it 16 hours.
All right.
Mine makes it 2 days,
now.
actually.
So
Good.
Yeah.
So
it's new.
phones, right? You get the
Phones.
phone, and then you got to get rid of the entire phone in most cases to get a new phone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Google, they are developing a smartphone that has 6 slots for swapping out technology
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
for outdated components. So you've got your phone, right? I'm holding up a phone for anyone who can see me, which is nobody except
Just us
for-
3.
You've got your phone, and then you've got like 6 compartments on here that you just boop, take out the technology that runs that and put in the new technology there, or put in the new phone technology in this locate, or the camera technology there, right?
Interesting.
So the only thing that's wasteful is that little chip part.
Yeah, because
Mm.
essentially,
Interesting.
like all phone designs are kind of the same.
Yeah.
They're similar. They're this bricky thing, right?
Just a bricky thing.
Just a
I mean,
bricky
yeah,
thing.
like obviously you have your different like sizes and shapes, but it's all just kind of like a rectangle screen.
And they're going to change the size and shape in the new model year so that you want to buy a triangular shape
I was just
phone.
going to say a triangular one.
Victorious pair.
Well, I mean, they
phones.
do that though.
Oh,
They,
yes.
What is it? There's a company out there that now has a folding
Yeah.
what is
that's-
it,
it's
Samsung's
Samsung.
new
I want.
Samsung, and then
Yeah.
they had those curved TVs for a while
Yeah.
to get you to buy the
Yeah.
new TV that's curved instead of flat.
And
It's a
I'm
nice
I'm not
version.
gonna lie, the flip one kind of worked on me, or almost worked on me, because just that sensation of closing a phone.
So fun.
It's like,
All right.
Whoa, that was a nice.
That was good.
yeah. Let's talk about cars now
was
as
good.
well. Then in
Mhm.
this instance, so they reference here Tesla, and Tesla is finding ways to take their spent batteries from the client's cars and repurpose them for home energy storage.
That's really good because I looked into a little bit like electric cars because,
Yeah.
gas is not great for the environment.
Oh my god.
So-
Also, it's expensive.
It's
right
super
now.
expensive. But, the issue with electric cars is that once their batteries are done, then they're just like these huge, like you can't do anything with them and they all go to landfills and that kind of thing. And that's the main drawback, or so I understand it, of electric cars. So that they're
Yeah.
repurposing them, that's really, really good.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about Tesla is that in order to get the new operating system or the new software for the Tesla, it is just downloaded into your car. You don't have to buy an entirely new car to get
Mhm.
the new features of it.
That's great. Yeah.
So that is
It'll update your car like your phone just automatically updates.
yes, that's exactly correct.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's cool.
it just updates. Bing. So you get out of your car one day, the next day you're getting in your car and you have no clue how to drive.
You're right. You go to start it and it's like
Oh,
halfway
no.
through update. You're like, no.
I was
no way.
So that's kind of a bit about planned obsolescence
That's interesting.
and that kind of thing.
That's very
Yeah.
interesting. There was something I was reading where it was talking about ways to kind of overcome that planned obsolescence.
Yeah.
And there's a couple that kind of stuck out to me, and they said, have good stuff.
Yeah.
Right? If you have good
Nice.
stuff to start off with, right? That's gonna, start you off like in a good spot.
Like quality furniture. Like
like
when you go to buy
Right.
furniture,
Right.
buy furniture that's going to last and it's not going to
Yep.
collapse in.
and then make repair and maintenance part of your routine and your
Mm.
budget so that you're working to keep that
I have a
lasting
story.
longer.
Mhm.
You have a story?
Yes.
Okay.
Please, go story
Yay.
time.
So, my house once caught on fire.
Oh my god.
No, it wasn't.
Zoe's house
I've never heard
stories.
this
My
story.
goodness.
I'm pretty sure you have. It's
okay.
it's not as dramatic as it sounds.
Is this how the
But-
ghost came to be in the house?
No, this is a different
Oh,
house.
of course.
Okay.
It's a
She
different
said many a
house.
house.
Yes. And I can't remember if I've shared the story, but we once had so when we moved into a house here in Illinois,
Uh-huh.
the old owners we kept the old owner's washer and dryer.
Oh, I do remember this. I was like, is this
Yes.
the dryer story?
It is the dryer story. And we never cleaned the dryer.
Oh,
we
you
were just
gotta
like,
clean it.
no,
Yeah.
like, I mean, like the screen that we pulled out, like we cleaned the lint and stuff, but we never like
No, the
actually took our
vent
time.
in the wall.
No, we cleaned that. I'm
Oh,
talking
okay.
about like just like
Around it.
regular maintenance
Okay.
type stuff.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I guess technically the vent is regular maintenance, but like we didn't take care of it or do anything to like protect it, and maintenance was not a part of our routine. And long story short, it caught on fire.
Wow.
That was scary.
We had to completely get rid of the dryer. It like left marks on the wall. It was super scary because obviously all our clothes are in there. So we're like, oh, the house is gonna burn down. But it really wasn't as big of a deal as it sounds. But I mean,
NBD,
yeah,
just a fire.
exactly. But because it exactly, Chloe. But no, because our dryer caught on fire, we had to go buy another dryer instead
Yeah.
of just taking care of the good working dryer we
Yep.
already had.
Right?
And that one ends up in a landfill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Interesting.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't have to share a lot of them, but like those were a couple of things, like caring for it, those, maintenance or routine repairs, passing it on, right? If you've got something good,
yeah.
maybe if you do get something else, passing that on to somebody else.
Yeah.
Where's the other one?
I like that. That reminds me of how, like, I mean, I keep coming back to fashion and its environmental drawbacks, but thrifting has become a huge thing right now, and that's so
That's one
great.
thing
This
they
entire
said.
thing I'm wearing right now is thrifted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing they were saying on here is to like, do thrifting, look at that kind of stuff.
Right.
You can upcycle for
Upcycling,
decorations and
right.
things
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. You know?
They also said stuff is just like food. Too much of a good thing causes problems, so reduce that empty stuff calories by buying less and choosing carefully.
So does anyone,
Mm.
where do we feel we must have the things comes from? And do you think if we knew what some of this consumption is doing to our home, that would change
I think
what we thought and how we acted? Or do you think it's just completely outside of our realm of understanding to comprehend what's happening to, I don't know, say the earth?
just on a personal level, I have an understanding of what consumerism and materialism
Yeah.
does to our planet,
Mhm.
but I still like to buy like nice things for my walls and like little things for my friends and or for myself. I think part of it is it's hard to visualize the impact that
Yeah.
it has on the planet because it's just such a grand thing that we can't really see.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be part of it, but also part of it I think is just buying things makes us happy in a small way, and we're all just looking for that small sort of happiness.
We're all chasing after
happiness
it.
is it goes back to Christmas.
Oh yeah.
So it is said that with the invention of Black Friday as this fake holiday, and these department stores coming out with all these ads, you need this and you need this, and the happiness for the holidays, and Christmas is America. It is our consumerism to its utmost.
Yeah.
And we're consuming so much there. They started transitioning all these ads to us finding happiness in buying this stuff, us expressing love by buying these things for people.
Yeah, gift giving is a whole love language.
Yeah. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Where does that advertising go to? Just the adults?
No.
No.
No?
It's everywhere now.
Everywhere.
Kids,
Children. We talked about how
especially.
there's, sugary cereals on the bottom shelf. And we were talking about this a little bit before recording about YouTube and how, advertising to children is rampant on sites where regulation is really difficult. So there's creations of like YouTube Kids, which is really great. And that has more specific rules and regulations for advertising to children and that sort of thing.
And not even just YouTube. Like, I remember always being fascinated by this. We did not have cable, but my grandparents had cable. And when I would go to my grandparents' house, they always had like baseball or the news or something on, and we would get those ads and we would see those ads. And then we would change the channel to Disney Channel, obviously, because we're children. We're not going to watch the news.
Right.
And the ads were so different. As like I was still able to identify like the difference between them. It's because they're so like specifically tailored to the age group and like every like tiny little thing. Like if you like this show on Disney Channel, oh, here's a couple ads that are based off of this show that are going to get the kids to tell their parents.
You weren't always able to do that in the advertising industry. It wasn't until Ronald Reagan, and when he deregulated the advertising industry, that in the 80s they were then able to market to children.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the ads could be specifically geared and targeting children. That's the first time that actually happened, and the child became a consumer in the eyes of things. And now you fast forward, and basically there are YouTube shows which are just ways to get children to consume a toy.
Yeah.
They walk into the house and they've got
opening of
this
the
toy,
things.
and all they do is play with this toy for 7 minutes in this YouTube show.
There's
and
unboxing videos.
There's whole genres of
Unboxing.
YouTube channels that are just unboxing toys and looking at toys and being like, look, kids.
Which
like one of
blows
the
my mind.
yeah. One of the biggest YouTube channels, I watched a video about advertising to children on YouTube specifically a while ago. I love video essays. I watched a video about this channel called Ryan's World, and it's just this little boy who unboxes toys.
We know who
Yes.
Ryan is.
Huge.
And he's a millionaire for doing it.
He's got he's got his face on different toys that says like Ryan's World approved, or
And he's like 5.
It's like, here's Ryan opening his own Ryan toys. I'm like, what in the world? What am I doing with my life? I need to sit down and open toys.
Exactly.
Crazy.
you do.
Oh.
You do.
That's what we should do. We
Not
should.
gonna lie,
Because if you
that
do,
would
you'll be
fun.
happy.
It'll make me
Yes.
happy.
Until a new model year comes out, and then you won't be happy
I won't
anymore.
be happy anymore.
It's My Little
Fleeting.
Pony
You'll need to
generation.
consume that.
It is fleeting.
So what is all of this consumption, this consumerism? What does it do to the world we live in?
Well, are we, like physical? Like
Yeah, like to the planet.
Not good things.
What does it do?
it's such a difficult cycle because
Mm-hmm.
the creation of the products creates
It's everywhere. You're
it-
consuming more than you think you're consuming when
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
the product. You
exactly.
purchase.
It releases like gases into the atmosphere, and then the going to the store to buy the product, the gas from the car, and then when you're done unboxing it, you throw away the plastic and the cardboard, and then when you're done in a couple years with the toy per se, that goes either to a thrift store where it's like used secondhand, but eventually it's going to end up in a landfill where like over however many years it takes plastic and all of that to decompose, like that's just going to sit there and rot, and the pile's going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and there's really no positive to it.
So I've got some statistics here.
Hey.
Does that surprise you?
No.
Whoopee.
So so in 2017 there were 3.5 billion consumers.
Okay.
It's a lot.
That's many.
By 2030 it's anticipated to be 5.6 billion.
It's even more many.
Okay? And if everyone lived like Western consumers do, we would need 5 planets to support us.
So are we
That's
starting?
scary.
Are we
It's
going to
very
move to
scary.
different planets? Like,
Yeah, right.
Is that what's happening?
Right?
We're colonizing the moon.
Yeah, or Mars,
Like
right?
at that point, realistically, like that is terrifying.
it is, yeah.
Absolutely terrifying.
So the way we are as consumers is it's not sustainable. So when you take into account the natural resources, the pollution of the earth, we are currently overusing Earth's natural resources with more than 70%. 5.2 planets it would take to support us.
Oh man.
The number is 3 planets if everyone lived like the average Japanese, and 3.3 if we lived like the average European.
Okay.
Okay, so we are consuming more than the rest of the world. Here's another one. If the Earth's history was 1 calendar year, we exist, humanity, for 37 minutes in that 1 calendar year. But we've used a third of the Earth's resources already.
In those 37 minutes.
37 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I've also, because I've heard this before, I think in the last 17 seconds is time where there was electricity or something like that. And really that is the point when we've been using most of the Earth's resources.
Yes.
That's incredible. I haven't heard that. That kind of puts a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah.
Yes. According to NASA, at our current rate of deforestation, there will be no more rainforests by the end of the century.
Oh, that's sad.
We're going to be facing massive water problems by 2040.
I mean, we're already kind of facing water problems. So thinking about 2040 is honestly not that far away.
No.
20 years.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what it costs? Do you know what the cost of a meal is? You think
just a general meal.
You think, well, hey, it cost me $11.25 to buy that meal, right?
Mm-hmm.
It costs way more than that. It costs 10 kilos of topsoil, 800 liters of water, 1.3 liters of diesel, 0.3 grams of pesticide, 3.5 kilos of carbon dioxide for one meal.
Yeah, so we often don't think about the resources that go into something simple like a meal.
Mm-hmm. So I asked earlier, this is the reason I also asked the question about if we understand what consumerism and the world was like, if we would still consume the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know that 7% of Americans think that we get chocolate milk directly from brown cows?
They do
Actually?
not.
Is that a real
7%.
statistic?
That is a real statistic.
Wow.
Come on, people.
And in a study from the University of Arizona, the majority of urban consumers did not realize that meat, dairy, and fruit come from living things that use natural resources to live and grow.
Wow.
So are we
Goodness.
educating people enough to understand?
I mean, let's be real. If somebody out there thinks that chocolate milk comes from a brown cow, then
Not
no.
people. 7%, according to this. 7% of people.
Then no, we need.
No,
to,
I don't know the
help.
ages or that kind of thing, right?
Zoe and I are both actually vegetarian, and I believe, it's mostly for environmental reasons for me, and I believe it is for you also.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we are definitely more conscious of that, but I know lots of people are not.
Yeah.
It's also, it's to the point where are people even willing to learn about it? I'm sitting here
Right.
and I already know everything about this, not everything, but a majority of the statistics.
Zoe knows.
She knows everything.
I do.
Welcome to our new podcast.
Zoe knows everything.
I meant in terms of the statistics about the environment and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
sitting here and listening to you say it out loud, it's scary.
Yeah.
And to people who aren't willing to learn, I don't at that point there's no hope. This entire episode we talked about how people are so focused on finding just those 3 seconds of happiness from purchasing a small thing. Why are people going to sit down and listen to a 20-minute conversation of what buying those
That's a great
3
point.
seconds of happiness?
Can I ask this then? And I ask this to everyone out there. Maybe it's not about making them listen to those things, but maybe it's about not necessarily making them listen to other things that make them think they're not happy without that, or that we're putting out the proper information so that people can understand, make decisions, and make the not consume or use things to their full life cycle instead of all of these things. There are things that companies bear the responsibility on in this as well. If we just look at, we've heard the term carbon footprint, right? Do we know, though, that the term carbon footprint was basically created by BP Oil so they could turn around and blame humanity for not making the right decisions and being irresponsible? Companies need to bear that responsibility. Why are oil companies not tasked with finding renewable resources to make things and coming up with inventive and creative solutions so that we don't consume our way out of this earth? Why is it that is okay, that we are going to use this place up and there's going to be nothing left. We are going to consume the globe. That is where we are. There are ways to create energy. Our Earth consumes 3,850 billion terajoules of energy from the sun. Globally, we use 0.57 billion. That is just 0.015% of the amount of energy striking us every day from the sun.
And we don't use it.
We don't use it. The sun could
Waste.
basically power the Earth for a year in 80 minutes if we could harness all of that. Imagine not only as our population grows, the amount of consumers grow, but imagine the amounts of energy we don't even know yet that we are going to consume. We need to reduce consumption, and it's not entirely about us. The corporations need to be a part of that. For every 1% of growth in that GDP that you talked about earlier, that leads us to between 0.5 and 0.8% increase in carbon emissions. Every 1% that our GDP grows, that raises carbon emissions between 0.5 and 0.8%. In a system where we are measuring our worth based on a GDP and a consumerism society, we are measuring our worth in a way that will cause us to be extinct.
If we don't do something about it.
If we don't do something about it, but we can.
And I think that's one of the most encouraging things is that in the past so many years, I think people really have, I mean, a lot of people are not and still need to, but I think a lot of people and companies have really been working to try to help this.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's so encouraging to see. Obviously, we still have a long way to go, but seeing people who are making strides really kind of helped build that community of, hey, we care about where we are and where we're living, and we need to do something about it.
Yeah, I agree. Way to leave it on a positive note, Jenna.
You know me.
It's
a
so
yellow sweater.
positive.
It was my
Once
yellow
again,
sweater on.
very interesting topic to discuss. I am Dominic,
I'm Jenna.
I am Zoe.
And I'm Chloe.
and we can't wait for you to hear us again next month, where our word is
Drum roll.
ostracize. That's right. Friends, thank you for joining us. We will see you next month.
One Word is a production of BFAC On Air.